in health, we cannot analyze without this coding process. So this coding is essential for this analysis of qualitative data. So for us, it will be the coding is essential. So can you see this and can you comment what are you seeing here? Anyone, you can unmute yourself and answer. What you can see in this picture?
Ma'am, important points are being highlighted here.
Okay. Yes. And can you see any pasting of these chits where that person has written something extra, or at one point of time she or he has written so many things.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yes.
so this coding, if you see this, from our UG days, we were reading something, and can you recall we used to highlight very important part or the part which will come in exam or which is important for Viva. We used to write this will come in Viva, this will come in written, this comes as a short note. Can you recall? Or this will come as a MCQ. We used to, especially, I don't know, maybe, but it's girls generally, they love to color their this thing, important thing. They have a few markers, white, that red and blue, whatever the light color, and then they used to highlight the text which is important, right? So we are yes, sticky notes to write extra information. So generally, we have been doing some part of this coding process, although it is not essentially a coding, but we are in a habit of doing it. All of us who are continuously reading and writing from our since beginning. So now before we go further, let's play a little simple game. So on a notebook, write the animals in this picture. So can you see it? So you have to write down the names of the animals. There are many here. Like animals are also there, and few other things you can also see. Or the animals are written here. Okay, so either you can write it, or if you don't want to write the whole list, I'll just show the question and then again I'll display this slide. So the question is, you have to group these animals according to any of your chosen criteria. Okay, so the question is, you have to group these animals, any of the criteria which you think, and then we will have a discussion on that. So yes, we may have a few participants response. How you how you have classified this? Anuja?
Ma'am, I have classified it into domestic, wild.
Okay.
Okay, domestic and wild.
Yes.
Okay. Priyanka?
I have categorized into reptiles, mammals, and flesh-eating or grass-eating.
Okay, so you have classified as reptiles, mammals, flesh eating. Okay.
Birds.
Octopus
Birds.
domestic है कि wild है?
Okay, octopus. Octopus is domestic or wild? Shamshad is asking. Okay. So yes, anyone? Name participant. Kirthana, he is herbivorous and carnivorous, reptiles, mammals. Okay. Yes, if you don't want to speak, you can type also in the chat box. Up to you. But if you will give me the response, then you will understand these codings, how those perceptions which we talked on day one, like how we perceive things, and qualitative is so innovative. Yes, so herbivorous, carnivorous, Jinza is writing locomotion, 4 category. Like locomotion is what, Jinza? I didn't get.
2 criteria. SSV was saying something.
SSV, are you saying something? Okay. So yes, if so crawling, okay, crawling, walking, running, flying, and swimming on the basis of habitat. Okay. So yes, yes,
I have categorized as domestic versus wild, animal versus birds, and reptiles and extraterrestrials and aquatic. So and herbivorous and carnivorous. These are the categories I can categorize.
Okay. So are you making a subcategory out of a total major category, or all these categories are separate?
Separate
criteria. Okay. Good one. So all of you have responded well to this question. So maybe there may be many criteria, like everybody said, but maybe this is one of the way, like carnivore, herbivore, or omnivore, related to their terrestrial habitat or their other criteria, which we can divide these groups into the these groups. So now I think now this was the question, like if I gave you beforehand, this was the question where in this as a question, this you have made your own criteria. But in this case, what you have to do, now you have to arrange the animals in these 3 criteria: carnivore, herbivore, and omnivore. Okay. So in this case, I'm not going, because you can do it, or many of you have done it also. So in this case, I have given a category to you, and you have to pick that particular animal and put it in this category. Okay. So what difference you observed in between these 2 situations? Yes, Emmanuel? What difference did you observe? Okay, Saraswati is writing inductive in first. Yes. So you started with open thinking, and everybody had their own criteria. And many of you like have, yeah. But if I restrict you with these deductive one, like you said rightly, first is the inductive and second is the deductive. Then some animal, the most important thing is that your innovation, maybe not innovation exactly, but you have restricted your thinking, and now you will not think beyond this category. And with the inductive one, you are free to have your own category the way you want to categorize those animals. So that's the difference between a inductive and a deductive. So now do you understand what is this inductive coding and what is this deductive coding, all of you, with this example? Is it clear to all of you what is inductive and what is deductive? Pragya is writing yes. I hope all of you must have understood. Anuja, do you want to say something?
ma'am. I told it. I understood it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I thought maybe you want to comment on something or some other thing which you want to emphasize. So, okay. So, you are right that first was inductive and the second was deductive. So, now look these words. So, what is this? One of you can speak while I am saying. Maybe Saraswati, you can do that. What is this? Can you
Unmute.
you have to, okay, you have to unmute yourself and say, what is this word?
Annoyed.
Annoyed. And what is this?
Upset.
This
Lost.
one?
Lost.
This one?
Vibrant.
This one? What is this?
Creative.
Then?
Bitter. Glad. Vibrant. Motivated.
Okay. So now can you arrange these words? All of you. The question is to all of you. Now, can you arrange these words into category? The way you did the animal thing without saying anything. I have not given you any code. So kindly do this.
Pessimism.
So Emmanuel is writing pessimism versus optimism. Okay. Like annoyed, upset, lost, bitter. And the other like vibrant, glad. Anybody else? Any emotions,
Emotions.
negative, positive emotions? Okay, positive, negative. Yes. So like categorize according to your good mood. Mood, yes, can be there. So you can see the shades of these category. You are categorizing
Same thing.
positive, negative, same codes. Someone is categorizing is like maybe positive and negative. Someone is taking mood as a keyword. Someone is taking emotions as a keyword. So all those innovation you can see among those yourself, that with the single set of words, how different it is. Everyone has their own criteria of classifying things, isn't it? So can we have the same thing if you have to calculate the mean of 10 individual, that mean hemoglobin? So what will you see? We saw this example in the first day also, that if you have to calculate the mean or standard deviation, all of you will get the same answer if it is correct, isn't it? But is the same thing is happening with this qualitative? What is your opinion regarding that? How it is different from that calculation or mean or quantitative analysis which we do? So yes, you are very right, it is very subjective and it depends on the researcher also. I said we talked about the etic perspective and emic perspective, because researcher is also a human being. The way he perceives things, the way he thinks, he has his own experience regarding any event or anything. Simultaneously, the researcher who is doing the research, he is also a part of that society. He's a part of the health system. He's a part of everything. So he has gone his own perspective. So that's why that subjectivity is there, and the way you perceive things, definitely you are trying to keep yourself neutralized all the time. You are consciously doing that you will not put your bias into the research. But those analytical memo which we talk, which you reflect upon something, that is a part of the drafting of the manuscript which we write. Okay. Okay, few words left. I'm sorry, I thought it's okay. It's done. So furious, dynamic, and confident. So again, these may fit into the categories which you have classified. So we have now the same thing. If I ask you to frame it as a positive and negative, then it will be a deductive one. So now see this. So what is this? Can someone read the headline? Dr. Madhav, I can see your name at the last, so can you do it? What is this?
Women give free people at US airport after being denied to carry alcohol.
Okay, so this was the headline. that women give free shots to people at US. So can you frame or can you think of any news which seeing this picture, what would have been the news?
Yeah, I'm not able to figure out.
What must be happening?
So what must be happening? Can you see the picture? Anyone else would like to comment on this? Emmanuel?
They're not giving their
Yes, Saraswati, I think Saraswati was also telling something.
ma'am, maybe she was not allowed to carry the alcohol, so she started distributing to people.
Yes, yes. So this was the news. So yes, you can read, Saraswati.
A viral video showed women offering free shots to passengers at a US airport after security personnel stopped them from carrying large bottles of alcohol due to the 100 ml rule that's been in place for years. Security officials chuckled as the Miami-bound woman offered shots to passengers. Pointed, I wasn't there to participate. A social media user commented.
Okay. So I think mute karna kisi ko, someone is talking. Someone is talking. Okay. So yes, so did you get, so what is, now we will see the next one. So you can see here that there is a headline. So basically, whenever you form you draft your manuscript or you form your theme, the main idea of that overall research that comes as a theme, and you can have this analogy with the newspaper heading. So whenever you see a newspaper heading, and then you see the drafting of other content, so that newspaper heading or that social media heading, maybe the Twitter or maybe the Facebook, then that heading is like the main theme or something which is different, which is catchy, and then there is the rest of the news. So this is just to show that analogy with the theme and the overall drafting. So this one, can someone read this? Anyone, Anuja or Priyanka?
Yes, ma'am. A 5-year-old Motorola phone saved a man's life by stopping a bullet from penetrating his skin. Armed robbery in Brazil. The doctor who treated the phone's owner said the man only had a small bruise near his hip and was quickly discharged. He also shared pictures of the damaged Moto G5, which had a half-themed phone cover.
Okay, so can you frame, like, if it is the news? Yes, so can you frame the headline looking this news? So yes, Emmanuel has already given a very attractive this thing, Avenger to the rescue. Any other title which you can think of? Anybody else? You can type in the chat box. If you don't want to, I mean, you can type it definitely. Only, I mean, few seconds on this, and then we'll move to the next. So it takes time actually. There are few people who are very quick at it, and like people like maybe who are not into all this. Phone as a blessing, yes. So it depends. Like, I'm also not very good at framing these spontaneous title, but there are people who are very quick into it. They have this. Madhav is also saying Hulk saves man. Yes, good. Mobile can be rescuers. Yes. So while you frame a title of your research, so these things should be there in your mind. You have to extract the main theme or the main this thing which should be catchy. And sometimes you have seen that also when you were undergoing through those articles, the researcher, he has quoted the narrative as a title also. That ringing bell was there, na? It was like a dancing ringing bell. So once you see these title, it is very, you feel like reading it, what must have happened. So that is the role of, maybe generating the theme or some title of your manuscript. So yes, Saraswati is writing, superhero took the bullet to save a man. Okay, good. So now can you tell the purpose of the news headline? So I think we have discussed that. that the purpose is basically, since I have only responded to this question, I did not wait for your answer. So this was only to say that, overall theme or idea of that news clipping. So now qualitative data analysis, how it is different from a quantitative data analysis. So basically the process is similar, but the quantitative analysis is of numbers, whereas in qualitative analysis, we analyze words, we analyze sentences. So that's how concept it is different. And in quantitative analysis, you have to put the command and the result and table, it is there right in front of you. Maybe you have to edit it a little bit, but a lot of things you will get it. But in qualitative, you have to make your own story. You have to make your own coding category. It's you who will be doing the interpretation part largely. So that's why qualitative data analysis, it takes a lot of your energy, a lot of your focus, all the qualitative approach, whatever qualitative approach you are using. Initially, you may find it a bit difficult, because you have to sit for long hours, like you said yesterday. I mean, today itself, that by doing the transcript of 15 minutes or the 10 minutes, it took maybe 2 hours. So that much time you have to spend, that too only for 15 minutes. Think of a case when you have got 12-20 interview, maybe 1 hour duration, how much time you have to give on the transcript. And then again, after the transcript, again, you have to sit for those coding and then categories. So you have to be continuously along with your data, along with your words. Whereas in quantitative, even if you leave for a few days and then again come back and analyze it, you will not feel like, number, you are not connected with the numbers. You are connected with the words. So that's the difference between the qualitative and quantitative. The qualitative takes a lot of your focus and a lot of your energy while doing the analysis, right? So there are basically 4 types of qualitative data analysis: content analysis, thematic analysis, textual analysis, and discourse analysis. So in health, we do basically most of the time content analysis and thematic analysis. And that's why we will focus our session and our demonstration also on these 2 types of analysis. Textual analysis and discourse analysis, we will not discuss that, because that is not very commonly used in health, especially the way we do the qualitative descriptive. Basically, it's the thematic analysis which we do, and maybe sometimes content also. So we'll see. So now there are tools for qualitative coding. So what are the tools? What do I mean by that? Like one participant also said that they can, like Saraswati, Shweta. Shweta said that initially you can do the coding by hand. That is the manual coding. So either, even if there is a software for doing the coding, but it is only making the process of the coding a bit easy. Otherwise, that mental process, it is the same whether you do a manual coding or you do electronic coding. There is not much of a difference. And if you have got a less number of transcript, like 7 or 8, still you can go ahead with the manual coding, and you don't need to go for a electronic one. But if there is electronic, if you take the help of any software, it organizes those codes in a simpler way, and it gives some effect to that particular drafting. So that's why obviously these software are helpful, but
Ma'am, there is some disturbance.
Because quantitative, it is the software. Okay, so I think I'm switching off the camera, maybe because. So can you can you hear? Okay, voice break. I'm sorry for that. I'll again repeat it. So in qualitative, basically, it is the researcher. In quantitative, most of the work is done by the software. If you have Strata, if you have SPSS, you have seen in SPSS also, those of you who have attended it, that only by giving, there is everything is there. You click that command and that value comes. The only thing is interpretation. Like even if you are doing the logistic regression, you are doing the survival analysis, the only thing which you need to do is the interpretation. But overall work is done by the software. Here in the case of a qualitative, everything, software only lessens a little bit of your task, but it's the researcher who has to be so active in constructing everything. You can't move your attention even for a second for a no away from your data. So while doing that analysis constantly, you have to be in that process of thinking, analyzing, writing memos, and you have to be with the data all the time. Then only a good qualitative draft comes. Then second, so this is by coding by the hand, and then coding with a word processor. So you can use Microsoft Word or Excel also to do the coding. And third is the coding with the software. So coding with the software, because there are few softwares, this QDA MinerLite, which we are going to demonstrate, that is also, many features are free, and it is, we can use it for our purpose. So Vivo is also there, Atlas TI is there, the software are there, but we have found out that QDA MinerLite, because in Atlas TI, it saves only up till 50 codes, and beyond that, it will not save. So 50 codes is less for maybe 20 transcript. So if you have to analyze, use 4 or 5 transcript, then you can use Atlas TI. Otherwise, number of codes are, there are more permissible number of codes in the QDA MinerLite. That's why we are doing the demonstration of QDA MinerLite. So is it, I mean, is it okay to all of you till this point? Anything which is not clear or which you want to repeat, although I think all of these things are very general, but still, because there was a voice break. So now can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. It's
Okay,
audible now.
thank you. Okay, thank you. So now solve this problem. So if you have to solve this problem 2 + 2, or you all will analyze it objectively, like we discussed regarding the quantitative. And now you have to give your interpretation in one word or few words. So now, can you do this? All of you, please read this, or one of you can read this. Shweta, can you read this?
Yes, ma'am. The medicine cost ₹1, and additionally, I had to be taken to the doctor. It was very difficult for my husband, as he is a daily wage worker and the expenses were very high. Each day I was given a drip and returned home late in the evening. My children used to stay hungry all day.
Okay, so what if you want to place this with code 1 or 2 code or something, what will be your interpretation? So obviously whatever you interpret, so it will be difficult, and it will be difficult means that there will be subjectivity in the interpretation.
Yeah, ma'am.
So yes, Shweta?
She has told about the cost of medicine and barriers in assessing treatment, because she's alone in the family and their children have to stay alone or hungry.
Okay. Yes. So that was the maybe
Effect on child.
you know, effect on the children also, effect on the child also.
Financial
There is a-
condition.
Yes, financial condition, like Dr. Poonam is writing. Even the opportunity cost, like if she
Loss of daily wage.
loss of daily wage, that is an opportunity cost of, you know, getting the treatment. If there is a loss of wage for that particular treatment.
Catastrophic expense.
So poor health yet catastrophic expenditure,
Helplessness, that's nice.
helplessness. If you
That nice.
want a emotional coding,
Yeah.
because we will talk about these
Yes.
type of coding. So those emotional outbursts where she's writing like I'm helpless, or you know, how will I do that? So that helplessness is a type of emotional coding. So
Looking into it.
that you have to work upon this. So every time you will read, that's why we say many times that you have to read your transcript initial. When you start doing the coding, read your transcript at least 3-4 times, because if you give a one-time reading, you will not be able to pick out everything. So the more times you read, the more you will get.
Nowhere helplessness is.
So if you see that helplessness, this word is not there. If you do the NVivo coding, we will write
Someone
like
is speaking and
Pardon?
Someone is speaking and it is disturbing somehow.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Maybe some participants may be unmuted. So yes, this helplessness is not there, as a code. If you read this helplessness is not there as a code. But Anuja has written because while reading that, Anuja decided that she's feeling that she's so helpless. So that's the type of emotional coding. And maybe the person, if you read it many times, I don't want to say that you will all the time you will get it at once. So by repeated reading, you will be able to recode your own code. Okay, because maybe first time when you code, you just do en vivo coding, or you do whatever is coming to your brain at that particular time. But when you revisit your code again, read the transcript, then you may like to change your own code. Okay, so that is there. That's why we say that you are never perfect in first cycle of coding. You should repeat at least this coding cycle for 2 or 3 times. Then only for initial few transcript, because you generate the codes in the initial 3 or 4 transcript, and then afterwards all the codes which are coming, usually that will fall upon the existing code. So the existing 3 to 4 transcript, you should work very hard to generate a good codes for your as a backup of as a foundation of your rest of the data analysis. Okay, so that's how, like, code, you start with a code, then you merge those codes category, you merge those category, you make a theme, and then you merge the themes and make a theory. Again, we have referred to many textbooks, and you will find that there is every textbook is defining these as a different way. There are people who are not classifying these categories from codes, they are only going to the themes, or they are classifying codes as a 2 type, like child code and parent code, means 2 type of code, or they are classifying themes as main theme and sub theme. Again, categories also, they are saying that they are making subcategories and they are making categories. So every word which you can see here, like codes, categories, themes, everyone has divided it according to their convenience, and there is no fixed guideline like how you should do it. But one thing is important, that obviously what we go, or we have we have come to this conclusion that you should have a main code. Code is must for any structure. So code should be there. That code, if you call it as a child node or child code, then that parent node or parent code, either you can call that or you can call it as a category also. We will see it. And if you see, if you can recall drafting of the manuscript, which you have seen in the first day session, that phenomenology or grounded theory, today again go back and read those articles. Then you will find out how they have given their result. Then you will find that variation about these categories, subcategories, theme, sub-theme, and types of codes. But code is must for any analysis, and then you can classify either in the form of category, or you can call it as a theme. Theory is a bit difficult to make. Generally in grounded theory, we make a theory, but theory is not easily, it doesn't, I mean, for me, if you ask me, it's not easy task to make a theory out of that existing data. Maybe if we do it continuously many times, or if we do some, this theory comes mainly as a grounded theory approach. So if you are able to extract a theory, it will be very good. But frankly speaking, till now, I have done few qualitative analysis, and we have done few publications also, but it is not that easy to come up with a theory. But definitely code and categories or theme, that you can make out easily. Like you did for the animals, you did for the emotions, that you can do for your data analysis. Coding. So coding is a process of reducing your qualitative data. Why it is needed? So you cannot publish your manuscript, or you cannot convey your point you cannot give 20 transcript to all the people to go and read it, because no, there is a limitation and nobody is going to read those many transcripts. So you want to convey your finding. So basically code is a process of reducing the qualitative data. By assigning code to that particular verbatim, you are reducing the qualitative data and without losing its meaning. That is very important. Like Anuja did a emotional coding of helplessness with that excerpt or that quote which you have seen. So it was not losing a meaning. So that meaning was still there with that verbatim. So am I audible now? There was a break in between. Okay, so without losing its meaning, that is very important. I was giving the example of Anuja where she has coded that particular quote as a helplessness. So that helplessness, it was not losing the meaning of that excerpt. So it has replaced, this word has replaced the whole paragraph as a helplessness, and that is a code. So basically, if you assign a word, if replace a word without losing its meaning, then it is known as the coding. And with capturing of the significant idea, like many of you have written that financial burden or catastrophic expenditure. So all that was also, it was conveying a significant idea that you want to convey regarding that burden or regarding that expenditure. So that was there in that code. So again, code is a process of reducing the data without losing its meaning and with capturing of the idea. Now, so basically it's a short phrase. So how should we code? Should we code as a word or should we code as a short phrase? So it's up to you. You can have a word or you can have a short phrase to capture. And it is basically the researcher generated interpretation. Like Emmanuel, in his reflection of this transcription, he said that initially he said that he a top sort of transcription. For a few minutes he did a interpretation, and for a few minutes he did a exact verbatim word to word. So that interpretation thing, the role of interpretation, and Dr. Madhav also asked this question that whether we should write the interpretation or we should write the exact verbatim. So for the transcription, you will write the exact verbatim. But here, when you are doing the coding, it is your interpretation. So just keep your interpretation reserved for this coding purposes, and that transcription should be done word to word. So it is a researcher generated interpretation, and it gives an attribute and meaning to each of the qualitative data. And what is qualitative data? Qualitative data is basically the transcript, or basically the words or the idea which has conveyed to you by the participant. And it also detects pattern. What do we understand by pattern? That you will see that few things are coming repeatedly. So if few things are coming repeatedly, shows that it is a pattern. Then again, these codes make a category, and if you club these category, it may make a theme. So that's the importance of code, pattern, category, and theme. So Harvey was a famous ethnographer, and he has given this quote. Yes, one of you can read this. Pragya, can you read this? Yes, please do.
Harvey,
We shouldn't do expect.
Okay.
Okay. Any one of you. I'm sorry. I think I saw.
Yeah.
There is a voice break, I think. I cannot hear. I couldn't hear.
Pragya, please carry on, please.
Harvey is an ethnographer.
Yes.
transcript to be like a towel.
Harvey, it's
That
like a towel.
when we would write,
That when we
I think let me ask who will read this. Dr. Madhav, can you read this? Because I think there is some confusion or some
bring out all the
Harvey, ethnographer, he said we should not expect a transcript to be like a towel that when we would wring out all and expect the codes to fall all over the floor like water.
Okay, so what do we mean by this? Emmanuel, can you convey the meaning?
Ma'am, I'm not getting the whole meaning as such, ma'am.
Okay, anyone who is getting the meaning of this this quote?
What I understood is that when you wring the towel, all the water is drained out of it, and so
Yes.
like it is not it is not so with transcript.
Okay.
That all that is there in the transcript can be extracted like
Means-
it can be done with a towel.
Yes. So in
Ma'am,
towel, when you are yes,
ma'am.
please. I want one of you to explain this actually.
Ma'am, here it means that whenever we do our transcribe and categories from the codes, we have to, our meanings should not be changed. Meanings would be the same. That what the transcript said. Means
Okay,
it should
okay.
not be like that waterfall in the floor. So our real meaning vanished away, and we are interpreting in.
Okay, Anuja has raised her hand.
Ma'am, I think it is not, it is he's trying to explain as it is not as easy as trying to get the water out of the towel by wringing. It is just not easy like that to decipher the codes from a transcript.
Okay, yes, Ashwathi, you were also saying something?
Yes, ma'am. I was also about to say that it is not just as easy to be just we take the transcript and the codes will just pop out. It is that we should read it again and again so that we'll be able to get a clear codes and form different codes from the same transcript.
Okay, so like wringing the towel analogy is with only the mechanical thing. When you wring the towel, what you are only applying a force without doing any mental processing. Are you doing any mental processing? No, there you are not doing any mental processing. You're just wringing the towel and the water will come out. But in case of a transcript, it is not a mechanical process. It is a process where you need to synthesize your thought, you need to analyze it carefully, read it many times. So yes, you are right. The two people, Anuja and Shruti, that it is not that easy to have a code like giving analogy with the wringing of it. Mechanical thing. You have to work actively, you have to think, you have to extract the meaning, and we will see the different, there are basically 29 types of coding method. So we have taken the reference of Saldana, his book, and he has mentioned 29 types of coding methods which we can use. But obviously we are not going to use all those 29 types, and we have selected few which we can use most commonly. So coding is not a very passive process. So now what do you mean by significant idea? Now, if I ask this, what do you mean by significant idea? What is, because in quantitative, what we say, that if the p-value is less than 0.05, isn't it? Then it is significant. Or we say that if the confidence interval, it doesn't have 1 or 0, then it is significant, isn't it? So what do you mean by significant in qualitative? That is very important. Most relevant, okay. Anybody else? You can unmute and say also, up to you, because both ways it is okay. I just want you to speak up. So important ideas, that ability to form theme, reliable, most meaningful, okay, near to reality of situation. That's also, so in this case, able to make a theme which is meaningful. Yes. So basically in this case, any verbatim which you think that it is telling something about your research question, because you have started with your research question, and any excerpt or any quote or any verbatim which you think that it is leading to near to your research question, or even if it is not near to research question, it is linking somehow, or it is a significant, means meaningful participants, some inner voice or their perception, or there is some emotion attached to it, then it is significant. There is no objective way to classify it. Obviously, this significance is also a subjective, very subjective. So the process of coding, it helps us in understanding a given phenomena. It develops a construct like self-esteem and aging, and it develops a new theory. The process of coding helps us to develop a new theory. If at all we are interested, at least it will help us to form a theme. That much at least we can do. So there I say 9 types of coding way. So which method of coding shall I use? So we have discussed, I think, 6 to 7 types of coding in this session. But the coding, which is depends on our research question and depend on our this thing, whether we are doing a inductive type of thing or we are doing a deductive type of thing. It depends which method I should be using for my coding. So that there are obviously 2 types of research question in our qualitative research, this ontological and epistemological. We have discussed about that. And obviously we have seen qualitative descriptive also, where you must have read, or you have read, that it is not always necessary to give this ontological and epistemological paradigm in our qualitative research. We may go ahead simple with the descriptive, qualitative descriptive research. Again, coding is like lenses, filters, and angles. So what do you mean by this sentence? Coding is like lenses, filters, and angles. So this lenses is, I'm talking of filters and lenses in camera. Okay. So what you do with the lenses? If there is a lenses in camera, what do? You zoom it, you enlarge that particular picture, and then you take the picture, or you minimize that, or you focus. Yes. So this lenses is like, you can enlarge it. That process is going mentally actually. So you can enlarge your mental process, so that lenses, through that lens you have to see. So it will again depend on the researcher lens. So again, coding process is like a lens. Again, filter. What do you mean by filter here? Filter is, again, it allows something to come in and something not to come in. So there will be many things in your transcript which are not directly related to your research question. I said you that there will be deviations. The participant may deviate while talking or while giving his view. So you need not to code all those things which are not related to your research question, or maybe any idea which you want to generate. So that lenses is important. This filter will allow you to filter all those things which you think that is not needed. Okay. And then angles. Then how this angle is important, how this coding process is related to this angle. So angle is again perception. Yes. Which angle or which you are seeing. So you change your angle also. While you take the photograph of any scenery, many of you must be a good photographer. So when you take in the single image, you change your angle. So by changing the angle, the view changes. So this is also related to your perception. So you change your thinking, you change your seeing, you change your angle of observation, and then the code may change. So that's how there is an analogy of this coding process with the camera. That coding, your eyes and your brain, that are like a camera which has got a lenses, filters, and angles. And that's how different individual will have a different code book for the same transcript. Is it okay? Did you understand this coding, lenses, filters, and angles? I think you can say yes or no. Okay. So Dr. Poonam is writing yes. Thank you. So now there is one example. So there is you can see this, and it is writing that there is just no place in this country for illegal immigrants, round them up and send those criminals back to where they come from. So this was maybe one participant's quote. Okay. So how this coding lenses, filters and angles work. So if the researcher uses, there are three types of coder. So first coder who believes in grounded theory or who has started with grounded theory, he will code it like no place. So no place, it will have his main theme. The second coder who is an ethnographer, he will see it as an immigration issue, that there is an immigration issue. And the third coder who is believes in xenophobia, who believes in this critical race theorist, he will say that it is the xenophobia. So this is an example just to show you about the perception of the person who believes in different sort of theories. So keep yourself unbiased during the coding. Obviously, because you are a person, your few biases will keep on coming, but try to keep yourself unbiased during the coding process. Now, there is a metaphor regarding coding, that the coding generates the bones of your analysis. And this integration of these coding or the integration of these bones into working skeleton is like a drafting your manuscript or conveying your idea. So this is a metaphor which you should remember in your brain, that coding is just the bones of your analysis. But if you just simply represent your code and you don't integrate it, there won't be a working skeleton. So you need to make a working skeleton out of your coding. Again, there is a metaphor of this, that the quantitative analysis calculates mean, whereas the qualitative analysis calculates meaning. This is also a metaphor. I have not given the name of the people, author who has given both these quotes, but these also are the famous quotes about the coding and about the quantitative and qualitative analysis. So coding and analysis is not synonym, because I said that coding is like generating the bones of your framework and analyzing it like integration. So now you can remember the difference between coding and analysis. Many people, many researchers, they think that coding is analysis, but I think I have made myself clear that what is the difference between the coding and analysis. Again, the second thing, coding is cyclical in nature. Now, what do you understand by this? Cyclical. Anyone? One of few of you may respond to this.
Ma'am, it keeps on changing, ma'am.
Yes, it keeps on changing, and that's how you also need to revisit your codes. Once, like we discussed, like initial 3 to 4 transcript, you should do a repeated cycle. You should again read and reread, and maybe in one time, whatever you code, you may change when you are reading, when you're doing it for the second time. Then third, yes, codes and categories are two separate entities. And because when you merge those codes and you make it into a category, then it is a category. So codes and categories are not similar. Then there are some necessary personal attributes for coding. So those necessary attributes are, first thing, you should be a very logical and critical thinking. And I think with all those, spending in medical education and in the medical field, I think all of you are very logical and critical thinker. Perseverance, that is very important, because I said that it is a little tedious task. So once you sit for doing the analysis or transcript, you need to sit for long hours, unlike the quantitative data analysis. So for qualitative, you need to put a lot of your energy. So that perseverance is required for coding and for all cycles of coding and categories. And if you leave it for a few days, again, those processing in the mind which has started, that will go off. So the qualitative researcher should try to accomplish the task, like maybe in 2 months, 3 months, whatever is the period. Don't make it, don't prolong it, don't postpone it. So that perseverance is required. Again, flexibility. Yes, there should be flexibility in the thoughts, because you need to change your angle that we discussed. So by changing your angle, you are allowing your codes to be flexible. Creative, definitely, because I said that you need to be creative, your that critical thinking and creation. Rigorously ethical. This is again important. You should not change the codes or verbatim whatever is there. So you should be rigorously ethical. And this the qualitative researcher, they said that if you have to choose one quality out of the 6, then the one of the most important is the extensive vocabulary. You should have extensive vocabulary, because otherwise you will not be able to convey the meaning exactly. So you should sit with those of you who have got a good vocabulary. You will be a very promising qualitative researcher. But those of you who think that they can improve, you may keep on looking for the dictionary words, maybe in the internet, or trying to replace those words, finding out, especially when you are generating your theme, especially when you're generating your categories. So first time, whatever is coming into your mind, you may write that, but keep on refining those vocabulary and those words. So these are the necessary personal attributes for coding. So there are difference between the codes and themes. Similarly, there are difference between the codes and themes. So the codes are, it's a process. If you give the analogy, so coding is a process of decorating a room. So you try, then you move few things and again try a serious reorganization. This is the code. And theme is the outcome of coding, that is the analytical reflection. The coding. So the coding is basically the moment you start your data collection, you should start coding your data, because whatever transcript you can make out in a day, and try to finish your transcript as soon as you finish your data collection process. Maybe what you can do, because you now know that it takes a lot of time to do the transcription. So you may do one interview, complete the transcript, do the coding process, and then again go back and do the second interview. Normally what we did initially, that we completed all the interview and then we started the transcript. But I think that is not a good idea, because once you start doing the transcript, then you will feel that your interview could have improved. So like Ashwathi told us today, she reflected that while she was doing the transcript, she thought that she would have improved. So obviously after doing the transcript, if you are going for the next interview, your interview technique will also improve. That you should go slow. Take one interview, do the transcript, and then maybe that coding you may start simultaneously. So once you start coding your data, and then for all the time you are there with the data, because you are reading those transcripts, you are coding, you are going back in the field, you are taking the interview. So day in and day out, your mind is onto that topic or that research question. So you will be in that research mode. So you should be in that research mode for a good qualitative research, because all the time you are thinking about the same thing, your research idea, your research topic, your research question, the codes, the interview, how to improve upon. So your entire focus for that particular period of time is on that particular research. And then the outcome will be really good. You will feel very accomplished after the end of manuscript submission or maybe acceptance. So start coding your data the moment you started with your transcript, and you should not code after all that field work has been completed. Again, I said we will see it need not to be very accurate, because we said that you will repeat this process. So start coding whatever is coming to your mind, whatever crude way or whatever is the meaning. Don't rely on your memory for future writing. This is all the qualitative researcher and all the standard textbook. they suggest that don't rely on memory. And that's very true. So get your thoughts, however fleeting, documented in some way. So now there are two ways of coding. There is a lumper coding and there is a splitting. So lumper coding, we also call it as a macro coding. So it replaces a big paragraph with either a word or a short phrase. Whereas splitting or micro coding is, it splits the data into smaller codable moments. We will see an example of this lumper and splitting. So yes, who is going to read this for me? Anyone who can read this paragraph for me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Aditi, thank you.
Lumper coding. I'm not telling you do this to depress you or scare you, but it was a reality for me. I thought I was so ready for this population because I had thought of the groups of kids. But this is such a unique situation, the inner city school. No, I should take that back. It's not as much of a unique situation anymore. There are more and more schools that are running into inner city schools. I really had to learn about the kids. I had to learn the language, gang signals, what music allowed, what t-shirts they could wear or on certain days and not on other days. There was just a lot to learn that I had never even thought about.
Okay. So like you've seen, maybe this is a teacher who is reflecting upon maybe her days in the school, what she thought initially and how she is thinking now. Okay. So now if you are a lumper coder, means if you want to replace this whole paragraph with a word or with a phrase, then a lumper coding could be a lot to learn. Because that's the main idea out of this paragraph, that the teacher had to learn a lot. Initially, what she thought that it will be easy, but this was not an easy task. Okay. So did you understand this? Okay. Adaptation, you can do that also. Challenges in that, very good. Now come to a code in a splitting way. So now here you can see I have just make it in a color way. So this first yellow one, I'm not telling you do this to depress you or to scare you, but it was a reality for me. So I may code it as a reality. The first, so I'm splitting the sentences. Then again, I thought I was so ready for this population because I had thought of the group of kids. So I may code it as I thought I was ready. Then again, but this is such a unique situation, the inner city school. So I may code it as unique situation. Then I should take that back. It's not as much as of a unique situation anymore. And there are more and more schools that are running into the inner city schools. So I may code it like more inner city schools. And then at the last, I had to learn the language, gang signals, etc. So this last paragraph, I had coded like I had to learn a lot. Okay. So can you see the difference between a lumper coding and a splitting? So lumper coding, you replace a paragraph with a single word or sentence, set challenges in adaptation, or like a lot to learn, whatever you can give that code. So that was a lumper, or we call it also as a macro coding. And this splitting is micro coding, where you are splitting almost each and every sentence and giving a code to it. Now, what to do? Whether you should be a lumper coder or you to be a splitting. So the basic is you have to combine both the approach, because lumper, what is the disadvantage of a lumper coder? Lumper coding, what is the disadvantage of a lumper coding? And what is the advantage? So we may lose a code. Emmanuel is right. We may lose the data actually, because missing of the few points. If you just replace the whole paragraph with a word, you may lose a code. You may lose many moments. You may lose points. So you are going a little away from your data. Whereas if you are doing a line by line coding, the problem will be like you will have too many codes. So both has their own problem. So you have to come midway. You don't have to be a lumper coder, neither you have to be splitting it in too many fractions. So be careful that regarding the number of codes, how many codes you should have, so that you should be able to handle that. If you have got too many codes, it will be difficult for you to manage those codes. So that's why the importance of a combination of both. In a paragraph, you can use the both, like where you are finding good ideas or every sentence is giving you some messages or some idea, you can do a splitting type of coding. If in one paragraph you can make out that only single word is sufficient to express that, you can do the lumper lumper coding. Is it all right? So it will be a mix of both the things in your in your data, but try using splitting coding initially, because splitting coding ensures that you are there with your data. You are not going away with your data. So this we have discussed. Now code proliferation. So I said regarding when you have got one study we did, we had approximately 80 transcripts. So we were having this problem of code proliferation because there were too many codes. So that time you had to repeat maybe that coding cycle many times, because you need to reduce those codes. So the only code, if you have got too many transcripts, like more than 25, you have got 40, 50, that usually that is the case with a big project where you take more number of districts or more number of states, then you have got this problem of code proliferation comes. So you should quote only the most essential part of the data corpus. So code should be, like I said, it should be a combination of the lumper and splitter. So the number of codes should range from 50 to 300. So it should not be less than 50, because then obviously it will be difficult for you to make a theme out of that. And if you can handle up till 300 or more than 300, it is also good. But for a beginners or for any researcher, the number of codes should be the authors, all those standard textbook, they give this range of 50 to 300. And for the initial, this is a very important part. For the initial 3 to 4 transcript, you should give a lot of spend a lot of time with that transcript generating your initial codes. So you try building initial very religiously and very thoughtfully, and then you will find out that all those codes are getting repeated. So that is the case with the qualitative research. And then again, I said that in the second cycle of coding, you can subsume codes into a broader codes. That can be done. And while you are coding, keep on writing analytical memo. So analytical memo is basically whatever you are thinking, whatever is coming into your brain, you can write that as an analytical memo and repeat the coding cycle. So if you repeat the coding cycles, you can tackle with this problem of code proliferation. So am I making myself clear to you regarding this? So I think all of us are back. So we'll start with the same we were talking regarding the problem of too many codes, and that process or that phenomena, when you have got too many codes, it is known as the code proliferation. And there are ways to tackle that code proliferation. So you should quote only the most essential part of the data corpus. The range, the number of the codes should be from 50 to 300. You select those frequent codes in the later part of the transcript. So spend more time with the initial 3 to 4 transcript to generate a basic skeleton of the codes. And then you can keep on falling or selecting the codes and sending them to the already formed codes. And you can again, in the second cycle of coding, or maybe if you are seeing your codes again and again, you can subsume your code into a broader codes and it's very essential that you should keep on writing the analytical memo along with this coding process. So there are most used coding methods. We will discuss the 7 types of coding methods. So there is a attribute coding. The second is the descriptive coding. Third is the emotional coding, which the Anuja did in the that transcript where she out of she transcribed this. She has given the code of helplessness. So that is a type of this emotional coding. Then there is a in vivo coding. So in vivo coding, when you take a part of the sentence or few words from that sentence and code it, it is known as the in vivo coding. Then there is a magnitude coding. We were discussing it yesterday also regarding that too many, short, or those things, or Likert scale, we call it as a magnitude coding. We will see the example of each and every coding. Then there is a narrative coding, and then there is a process coding. So let's see one by one these type of coding methods. So now attribute coding. What do you understand by this meaning attribute? So basically attribute is like the characteristics of the individual or the participant you have interviewed. So you code about the research sites, the participant, the material, like they are from urban, rural, their age, gender, qualification, designation, or the type of participant like Asha, or he was a medical officer, A&M. So all those attribute or the personal characteristics of that individual or participant, you code it as an attribute coding. Generally, the attribute coding is not used for generation of theme, but when you have to quote a particular quote while you are citing or while you are writing a particular concept, then you use this attribute coding as a form of variable. So this is basically again the like Abhi said, it is a socio-demographic code, and it is usually at the beginning of the data set. So like yesterday also you started with the general, tell me something about yourself. So those things, when you ask such questions, you write a attribute code for that, and it is applicable for all type of qualitative study. So this is just example like name, age, gender, social class, data format. So this is example of attribute coding. Now second is a type of descriptive coding. So descriptive coding is very commonly done, and it assigns the label to the data to summarize in a word or short phrase, like most often a noun. Like Emmanuel has that too many lot to learn, so he has replaced it with word. I don't remember, but he said no, there was some word for it. I just forgot. So
Challenges to adaptation.
Yes. So that if some word is there, or if you are replacing it by noun, so you are assigning a label to that data to summarize in a word or short phrase. It can be a word, it can be short phrase also. So that is a type of descriptive coding. So that time he did the descriptive coding of that particular paragraph. And it can be like hospital house injections. That is just an example. So descriptive coding, you know what is a descriptive coding. So just an example. So yes, someone may read this. This is an example of descriptive coding. Can anyone read this for me?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, Priyanka.
Yes. My son Barry went through a really tough time probably started the end of 5th grade and went into 6th grade. When he was growing up young in the school, he was a and his teachers loved him to death. 2 boys in particular that he chose to try to emulate were not very good for him. They were very critical of him. They put him down all the time, and he kind of just took that and really kind of internalized it. I think for a long time in the time period in the 5th grade, early 6th grade, they really just kind of shunned him altogether. So his network, as he knew, it was gone.
So this was if this was a narration of a mother about her child. So yes, Ashwati is writing bullying. Very right. It was a kind of bullying only. But if I have to do a descriptive coding, then maybe the first yellow part I could have written like student-teacher relationship in the initial part, and then like bad role models. Traumatic childhood can also be there, because he sort of internalized. So it depends again. This we have taken it from Saldana. I have told you that that is the reference book which we have adopted for particularly making this session of coding. So it's a bad influence, traumatic childhood, bullying, anything can be there as a form of where you are replacing this as either as a short phrase or as a maybe a word. So turn introvert, it can also be there. So too many types of the code which you people are writing, and all of it is correct. So now the second is the emotion coding. So now what is the emotion coding? We have discussed about this when the Anuja gave that helplessness word to that particular paragraph in that out-of-pocket expenditure. So that was a kind of emotional coding. So basically you code participant sentiments, which may not be written in the written form. Means they are giving the words to their sentiments, but that particular word will not be there. So you are coding the participant sentiments, his feeling, his reaction, his excitement. So all these words, if you are these words, if they will not be there in the exact verbatim, but if you are understanding from that particular quote that some emotion is involved, then this emotional coding is done. Like hopelessness, anxiety, denial, acceptance, hopeful. Okay, so we have seen how many types of coding? We have a lumper code and a splitter code. So lumper code, we replace the whole paragraph with single word or phrase. Splitter code is when we do each and every line, we split and we do the coding. And what we learned that we have to use the mix approach, because if you do the splitter code, then there will be problem of too much code, or what we call it as a code proliferation. And if you use a lumper coding, then you may lose the data or some important code. So there should be a combination of the two methods. Okay. Then we learned about the types of code. We have seen the attribute coding. So attribute coding is when we code the personal characteristics as in the form of a code, that we call it as attribute coding, but we don't use that attribute coding in our analysis. That is just an identifier which we use to show the quote of a particular person. The second type of code which we did, that was a descriptive coding. Descriptive coding is again, you replace, it is a kind of a lumper coding only, when you replace a paragraph of that description with one short phrase or one word. Usually it is a noun. And the third type which we are discussing, that is the emotional coding. So emotional coding is again when you figure out the of the participant, then you code it in the form of a emotional coding. So emotional coding is used to label the emotions experienced or recalled by the participant, and it may be inferred by the researcher like Anuja did regarding the participant. So usually it is inferred from the participant, or it may be there from the participant and it may be inferred by the researcher. So now you have to justify your role. So coding participants' viewpoint. So are participants expressing hopelessness? So that could be the one viewpoint, and or there could be coding researcher viewpoint. Are you interpreting hopelessness? So these are the two different things. So you have to I mean, both the roles are okay. There will be at times when the participant will say that they are expressing, and there will be at times where they are not showing it overtly, but you have to interpret it. Now, the fourth type of coding is in vivo coding. So as the name suggests, in vivo coding, you take some part of that particular quote or sentence and you form a code. And from this only that software NVivo is there, because NVivo, there you a code using that entire sentence acts as a code. So you code the participants' own words, and like they denied the treatment. They have got no mercy. It was too expensive. So you code the participant quote only, the few words. You can take few words out of that quote and you can make a code. So this is also very commonly done. And I also do a lot of NVivo coding, because if you are doing it for the first time and if you don't want to put too much of your brain, you can start using NVivo coding. So in the first cycle coding, you may start with the NVivo coding or the descriptive coding or a combination of all the things. Ideally, it should be a combination. If you can see any emotional coding, you can code it as an emotional coding, or else you can use the NVivo or descriptive coding. So the example of NVivo coding will be like, my son Barry went through a really tough time. So I've coded it like a tough time. Then the second paragraph, two of boys in particular he chose to try to emulate wouldn't were very good of him. So I have written it like put him down. I've just taken few words. This word, this you can see put him down. So I have taken this word put him down and I have coded this. And then again, this was like when he was growing up young in the school, he was a people pleaser. So I have taken this word people pleaser from the participants verbatim and I have coded it like a people pleaser. And then this was like shunned him. So this kind of really shunned him altogether. So I have coded it like a shunned him. So can you see, I have used the words or the phrase by the participant only in the form of a code. And this type of coding is known as the in vivo coding. This is easy to do. And in the first cycle coding, you can definitely use this in vivo coding, and later you can modify your codes. So in vivo coding is helpful when you are in the early phase of analysis, when you are still deciding what to code and you are not finding an appropriate word to code, or you are figuring out what to name, what name to be given to that codes. So it is very helpful, this in vivo coding. So we have learned 4 types of coding: attribute coding, we saw descriptive coding, we learned about the emotional coding, and we have seen the in vivo coding. So all these 4 types of coding, and then we talked about the lumper and we talked about the splitter. So now the next in queue is the. So now what is this process coding? It is basically whenever you describe some action, like, and this should end with ing. So all these ing things like walking, checking reports, hospitalization, helping. So all these actions, we code it as a process coding. So example of process coding in this case, the same transcript, I am using a process code and I'll use the word ing. So this first green one, like my son Barry went through a really tough time and probably started at the end of 5th grade, went into 6th grade when he was growing up young in the school. He was a people pleaser. So in this case, I did as a pleasing people. So this was a process coding, action, ing. The second is 2 boys particularly he chose. So he was internalizing rejection, where this word was there, he kind of internalized it. So I have coded it like internalizing rejection. Again, to say that this is not the only word or phrase which you can replace. It's up to you because it is very subjective. You can code according to whatever you feel like, but these are the types of code which we use. And then again, losing your network. So if you add this action in the ing, then it becomes a process coding. Okay. So again, repeat, we did descriptive coding, we did attribute coding, we did NVivo coding, we did emotional coding, and we have seen process coding. So now next is the magnitude coding. So this magnitude coding is also known as the value coding. And it is also appropriate, very much appropriate. All these coding which we are talking now, it is appropriate for all type of, but especially for the qualitative descriptive studies. So example is like a Likert scale. I said that we call it like very strong, strong, less strong. So if you want, if the participant is using or giving some meaning in that particular scale, then you call it as a magnitude coding, like strongly, moderately, low pain level, high pain, positive, negative, neutral. So these things are magnitude coding. Like you did the positive and negative emotion in the beginning, you coded it in the form of 2 positive and negative emotion. That was also a form of magnitude coding. So this is the comparison of the 3 styles of coding using the same transcript. So in descriptive coding, you have seen that it was a student-teacher relationship and bad role models, whereas in vivo code, we have coded it like tough time, people pleaser, put him. The process code, I have added the word ing, and it was like pleasing people, internalizing rejection, and losing your network. So this was the main type of coding which we discussed. Now, how to decide what to code? So anything which is related to your idea, which is interesting, which is surprising, or a recurrent pattern which you are observing, that is the it should code. You should code it. So generally, the standard textbook or the Saldana, he recommends that anything which moves, you should code it, or anything which you find interesting, or which you find it is attached to the research question, you should code it, or any pattern. So now the next question is, what is the length of the text which I can code in the transcript? So there is no such rule, and we have seen all type of coding. So you can code a sentence, you can code a phrase, or you can code a word also. It's totally up to you what you want to code and what you want to emphasize, how you are perceiving, or how you're. So you can use your, again, we talked about your coding lenses, coding filters, and coding angles. So you can use those 3 features of your eyes and your brain, and you can code whatever you feel like coding. Now, how to decide what to label? So you should label the text if it appears several times across transcript, it amazes you, or the interviewer specially said it is important, or you read something similar in the previous literature, or it is related to any theory or concept, then you should label a text. So before you begin to code, you can opt either of the 3 approach. Either you have a preconceived concept, like we did a study on the uptake of vaccine, and since we already had some theme or some pre-decided theme, so we put all those codes into those themes. Or you can be open-minded, like you have experienced this while you were categorizing those animals. So you may have a preconceived concept or theme or category, or you keep on going open-minded, or you can use a combination of the above 2. Like you can go with a pre-decided theme, but the more you dig the data, you can even change that theme, or even you can modify that existing theme or existing category. So it is totally up to you how you want to go about. But do not hesitate to code for the plenty of text in the first cycle, because in the second cycle, then you can subsume into a broader code. So thumb rule for the initial coding is, do not think right or wrong, just do it. Just do it. Even if it is NVivo code is looking simpler to you, just do the NVivo code, but keep on writing the memo. I think we have not still covered that analytical memo. It will come. So as a researcher, you have got a total freedom in naming your codes. There is no guideline about it. You can name your code like anything, something interesting, whatever you feel like. So now again, can you extract one or more codes from this paragraph? This paragraph, one of you can read it. Any volunteer?
Can I?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
I wake up around 6, start my day with getting kids to ready for school, then gym. To save my time, I had my breakfast in the kitchen. I always make tea and eat omelets and banana while catching up on the emails on my phone.
To extract number of codes, it's up to you. You can start writing in the chat box. Hectic schedule, starting each day, morning routine, daily activity, same time, time management. Busy, routine activity, habit schedule, save time. Habits, routine, healthy breakfast, healthy food. Manage timing, saving time. Yes. So all of you are correct. So you can have few codes or you can have a descriptive coding. Depending on time management, healthy food, getting up with the kids, saving time. So, or in hurry, he's he's not spending enough time in breakfast. He's in hurry, very hectic schedule. So all of you have written all those words. Like Sukalyan is writing discipline. So it's up to you. You can have few codes, and based on that, you can also have emotional coding. So in this, so what will be the emotional code for this? So you can have few. You can think for few emotional codes also. Like that person worrying, okay, caring, yes, because taking care of the kids, maybe he's helping, so caring is there. And then again, maybe sacrificing, because just to save time, he's having, he or she, because it's not clear, so having breakfast in the kitchen only. So, and in the self-dependence. Yes, so all these are the emotional code. So if you can recall all those categories of code, then you will try to extract, you will be able to see your use your camera lenses, your camera or brain lenses, angles and filters. So try using all those things. That's why we have told you these many types of, yes, process coding, where you add the word ing. So all these types of coding will help you to understand what to code. Otherwise, initially, whenever you start coding, it will be difficult. Maybe you will think that what to code. So you may do a lumper coding, or you may be excessively splitting the sentences, but you have to maintain a balance between the two. So we have discussed about this deductive and inductive coding, and this is good for descriptive research or program evaluation. And I have given you the example also that in many of the program evaluation, you have that broad categories already defined, and you search in your transcript a priori. So you have a priori all those categories, and you search for the codes, and then you just move those codes into that already predefined categories. So researcher assigns codes to the text of an expert as per the prior set framework. And that's why it is called the top-down approach, because it's already been decided. You have decided these codes, categories, maybe code category 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you find, or you may decide with the codes also. So already you have decided the codes, and you will find the excerpts in the transcribed file, and you will fit those into the codes. Again, inductive coding, like you have seen in the initial classification, when you classified the animals based on your thought process, how you want to classify, that was the inductive. So you start with the data and you find the codes, and then you find the category based on those method. So it is good for exploratory research or a grounded theory research. And in such research, you don't have any about the major theme or code, and researcher allows the themes or codes to emerge from the data. That's why it is called as the grounded up approach. Means the data, that theme is grounded in the data, or the concept or the codes, or the categories, that is grounded in the data. That's why it is called as the grounded approach. So, but again, you can go, like we said, that you can have a midway approach. You can start with a deductive because you have your interview guide. So in that interview guide, you have some broad categories defined in your interview guide. So you can start with a deductive approach. You can keep on looking into the data. You may change that pre-existing categories into some new categories. So you are using both the combination of inductive and deductive approach. And many times in health, we use a hybrid approach. So start with the deductive, and then while you approach your end of the data analysis, if you keep your eyes open and your brain open and keep your analysis power intact, then obviously you will change your existing category. So it depends how you use that. So now, what are the steps for coding in hybrid approach? So you have to create some initial codes or categories. You have to read through the transcript, then decide what to code in the transcript, then add new codes if it emerges from the transcript. You have to group those codes into categories, evaluate and revise, and then write the narrative. So this is the steps for coding in hybrid approach. So now you have to create some code from the following research question. This is the deductive one. So these are the 3 research questions. What motivated you for taking the COVID vaccine? The second research question is, what did you find frustrating in the process of vaccination, and how had you reacted on that? So if you have to create some deductive code, initial code from the following research question, what will you form? Please write those initial code if you are going using a deductive approach. So motivation, frustration, reaction. Yes, Emmanuel rightly said, motivation, frustration, reaction. Anyone else would like to differ or would like to add or do something? Barrier, okay. So yes, you are right. Maybe Madhur is on motivation, fear and barrier. Or you can use the same, you have written frustrating, so you can write, you can have an in vivo code also. You can use the word of that particular sentence and you can form an in vivo code. So severity, motivation, process, reaction, sensitization, implementation, solution. Okay, yes, that can be there. Dr. Pranam is writing. So it's more of a public health perspective when you are writing like implementation or solution or sensitization. So depending on that, you can have a pre-decided code, and then you start doing the coding, and then in the process of coding, you may change these categories. You may change the codes also. So the code book, the list of the codes which you have, it is known as the code book. So your code book should have the name of the code. You can define the code if it is possible, but usually in case of in vivo code, it is not required because you are taking the word out of that particular code. So like motivation and frustration need to be defined in this case. So what does it mean by a new code emerging? We always say that